Call to order this meeting of the Franklin Municipal Planning Commission for July the 27th, 2023. We'll start off with a roll call agenda. Commissioner Allen,
Present.
Commissioner Franks.
Present.
Commissioner Harrison.
Present.
Commissioner Lindsey's present. Commissioner Mann.
Here.
Commissioner McLemore.
Present.
Commissioner Orr.
Present.
Alderman Peterson.
Here.
And Commissioner Williamson.
Present.
All present and accounted for. The next portion of our meeting goes to the opportunity for citizen comments. This is a time that's open for citizens to be heard on any issue or concern. And this represents a little bit of a change from our prior method of operation. There's been a change in state law, so we allow you to speak on any item. If you would like to speak on a specific item that's on our agenda, please wait until we get to the citizen comment portion for that item. But for all citizen comments, again, I've gotten a good number of citizen speaker cards, comment cards. If you'd like to speak and you haven't filled out a card, you can do that and provide them to us as you come to speak. You'll come up to the microphone at the lectern and state your name and address, and then we ask you to limit your comments to 2 minutes. So given that, are there any citizens now who would like to speak to the commission at this time? Do you wish to speak to a certain item on the agenda, or? No? Okay, come forward, please.
Give you a copy of what I was going to say.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Brian McLaughlin. I live at 2015 McAvoy Drive in Franklin, Lockwood Glen subdivision. The subject I want to talk about tonight is there's several activities going around Lockwood Glen in changing zoning and consideration of street changes. The one particular one that I wanted to speak about tonight is the extension of McAvoy Drive onto South Carruthers. I'd also like to talk about,
Is it on our agenda tonight?
is it on your agenda?
It's not on the agenda tonight. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
And the second portion of that is I would like to focus on the intersection of Liebler Drive and McAvoy Drive. Liebler is an entrance into Lockwood Glen. The focus is on safety. I believe that once the expansion of the subdivision and the next phase occurs, there's a adequate road to exit onto South Carruthers from that area. Currently, there are no stop signs on McAvoy Drive. An extension to McAvoy Drive onto South Carruthers would fundamentally make McAvoy Drive a freeway for residents to omit going through the planned stop light on to be put in later on South Carruthers and go down McAvoy Drive through the planned or proposed extension onto South Carruthers, making McAvoy Drive a freeway. The current situation at the corner of Liebler Drive and McAvoy Drive is there are no stop signs other than the one coming up Liebler. School children are standing on the corner of Liebler and McAvoy Drive waiting for school buses. Number of residences along McAvoy Drive back out of their driveway onto McAvoy Drive into the traffic. Currently, when people drive along McAvoy Drive to get out on Liebler, they do not slow down. So I am proposing that two things. One, do not extend McAvoy Drive onto South Carruthers because it'll increase traffic and risk to the safety of the residents. Number two, I'm proposing that 2 additional stop signs be added, one on each side of McAvoy Drive on the corner of Liebler. So Liebler and McAvoy Drive would be a 3-corner stop. This would stop the traffic on McAvoy Drive to make sure children are, when they're crossing the road for the school bus or waiting for the school bus, are safe, and it will also slow the traffic down to prevent risks from people backing out of their driveway onto McAvoy Drive. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll provide copies of your comments to both planning and engineering, so. Okay, anybody else wants to speak on an item that we haven't gotten to yet on the agenda? Yes, sir.
My name is Scott Johnston, 2001 McAvoy Drive. I have the same convictions as the previous speaker. I live in just a few doors down from him. And we've had several HOA meetings at the clubhouse, and the neighbors there, all of our neighbors have all, the consensus there is that corner where they're thinking about developing, putting some kind of a development there, like a pizza place or some mercantile, business there. We've all voted down, just amongst ourselves, that we don't want anything there. We just want a green space there. And so to put a through street at McAvoy and South Carruthers makes absolutely no sense. It wouldn't serve the neighborhood. And the only reason you would put it would be logical that the only reason you would put a street there would be to serve, if there was a pizza place or a coffee thing or something there, you'd be able to have access and be able to find parking there. But the neighbors don't want this through street for all the reasons he mentioned. It would cause a freeway through our neighborhood. And the only logical reason to put a through street there would be to serve a mercantile, type of arrangement. And since the neighborhood has voted that we don't want a business or we just want green space, it doesn't make sense. It does not serve the neighborhood to put that through street there.
Great.
That's all I got.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Okay, the next item is the approval of our minutes. This is for consideration of approval of the June 22nd, 2023 Franklin Municipal Planning Commission meeting minutes. Is there a motion for approval?
Move for approval. Second.
Was that Commissioner Alderman Peterson? I'm sorry, Alderman Peterson. Seconded by Commissioner McLemore. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? Seeing none, by roll call vote, Commissioner Allen,
Aye.
Commissioner Franks.
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison.
Abstain.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye. Commissioner Mann.
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore.
Aye.
Commissioner Orr.
Aye.
Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
And Commissioner Williamson.
Aye.
Great, that motion passes. The next item is for placement of non-agenda items on the agenda. The non-agenda process by design is reserved for emergency instances. Non-agenda items shall be considered only upon the unanimous approval of all of the Franklin Municipal Planning Commissioner members. Does anyone wish to place a non-agenda item on the agenda tonight? No request, thank you. Item number 2 is consideration of approval of items 3 through 10 and 16 through 17 on the consent agenda. And the consent agenda is a process whereby we place non-controversial items on an agenda to be considered in one motion and one vote by the Planning Commission members. Does anyone wish to remove any items from the consent agenda? Seeing none, we'll consider the consent agenda as established, items 3 through 10 and 16 through 17. So those items will not be considered individually. Is there a motion for approval?
Move for approval. Second.
We have a motion for approval by Commissioner Harrison and seconded by Commissioner Orr. By roll call vote, Commissioner Allen,
Aye.
Commissioner Franks.
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison,
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye. Commissioner Mann,
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore,
Aye.
Commissioner Orr,
Aye.
Alderman Peterson,
Yes.
and Commissioner Williamson.
Aye.
That motion passes unanimously. The next item is item number 11. This will be a public hearing item. This is consideration of Resolution 2023-44, a resolution to recommend changes to the Williamson County Growth Plan, to recommend those changes to the Williamson County Coordinating Committee. We'll start with a staff presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've just got some comments to make. Williamson County's existing growth plan was adopted in April of 2001. The growth plan established urban growth boundaries around each of the 6 municipalities in Williamson County, as well as 4 planned growth areas. And the boundaries have not been altered since that time. Early in 2021, the city of Franklin, along with the county, Brentwood, Fairview, Nolensville, Spring Hill, Thompson Station, all began working collaboratively to update the Williamson County Growth Plan. Throughout the summer of 2021, an
Is your mic on?
It is, but pull it closer. Is that better?
Yeah, this-
How about now?
Can you trade mics maybe? Because we had trouble with one of the mics earlier today. See if that's any better.
Mr. Chairman, is that okay?
I don't think it's not,
Or go to the podium.
yeah, just get.
I'll go to the podium.
We did
Let's
have
go to
some
the
trouble. We had another meeting in here earlier. We had some trouble with amplification on that side. I don't know why.
Thank you, sir. Is that better? Okay, great. All right. I'll recap what I've said. We've had this growth plan since 2001 and has not been altered since that time. In early 2021, the city of Franklin began working collaboratively with the county and the other municipalities in Williamson County. And then throughout the summer of 2021, an interdepartmental team of City of Franklin staff began meeting weekly to analyze the Franklin UGB by drainage basin. And during these meetings, we discussed infrastructure availability, the extension of infrastructure and costs associated with such, and providing urban services to territory within the UGB and for territory proposed to be added. Environmental features such as floodplains, steep slopes, and agricultural lands that wish to remain working farms were all considered during the discussions and analysis. Development suitability, the cost to extend municipal services, population projections, and the study of necessary land uses to accommodate managed and strategic growth all factored into the staff's preliminary recommendations for the updated UGB. During the fall of 2021, a series of community meetings and a public survey were held. City of Franklin staff engaged citizens to raise awareness of the UGB study and receive feedback on the preliminary recommendations. Subsequent to that, after that time, several property owners came forward with specific requests to be removed from the Franklin UGB, and they were all given an opportunity to publicly present their unique circumstances to the board. And based on these presentations and then feedback received from the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, throughout the process, adjustments to the boundary were made accordingly. In total, the staff engaged the Franklin Board of Mayor and Aldermen at 6 different work sessions throughout the fall of 2021 and into the spring of 2022 for their input and guidance. Additionally, the staff made presentations at 2 joint conceptual workshops during the fall of 2021, and we also provided a quick update at the May 25th, 2023 workshop 2 months ago. I would like to point out that at the July 11th Board of Mayor and Aldermen work session, just 2 weeks ago, a citizen addressed the board about the city's recommendation to remove parcels along West Harpeth Road, which is east of Columbia Pike near the Thompson Station border. And a reference map has been included in Civic Clerk that shows the subject parcels in a red hatching. The hatched parcels in light tan, owned by the A1 Home Builders, submitted a sewer denial request to the city of Franklin for 150 single-family units, and their denial request was approved by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen on March 28th. Thompson Station is recommending including the parcels in their UGB. The remaining hatched parcels in white on that reference map would not be in a UGB and they would just remain in the county. Thompson Station is also recommending adding 2 parcels further south along Columbia Pike into their UGB. The official adoption process started on June 13th with the convening of the coordinating committee. Tonight is the first of 2 required public hearings regarding the Williamson County Growth Plan, and the next hearing will be held on August 8th, 2023 at the Board of Mayor and Aldermen 7 o'clock meeting. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission recommend approval of Resolution 2023-44 to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so it's time for public comment on this item. Again, this is a public hearing. I've got a series of cards. I'll call about 3 or 4 of you at a time. You can line up at the lectern. Again, we ask you to hold your comments to 2 minutes, and you will hear that tone. That's an indicator that your 2 minutes are up. And if you're in mid-sentence, it's perfectly appropriate to wrap up your comment. But if you're only halfway into your presentation, I'm going to gavel you down. So, so with that, we'll start off with Janet Curtis, Andrew Keenan, Wayne Carden, and Dana Frick. So again, when you come to the lectern, give us your name and address, and proceed on.
Janet Curtis, 3665 North Chapel Road. Thank you for your service. Now I would like to speak on the growth into the UGB in the Mays Creek Basin area, and specifically Highway 96 East and North Chapel Road, which has property zone Municipal Growth Area District 1, which means this area is to remain largely undeveloped until such a time as the land may be annexed into the municipality. Under such annexation, the municipal growth areas are considered a part of the county's rural landscape, and as such, this district is established to protect the rural character of Williamson County by allowing for agricultural, rural, and low-density residential development. I am requesting that you be mindful of the current zoning of this area and that it consists of single-family houses on lot sizes of a minimum of 1+ acres, except for Watson Creek subdivision. I am requesting that any growth taking place in this area be consistent with the current landscape. When property in this area gets annexed into the city of Franklin for development, we would like to see a transitional form of development. The city needs to keep in mind that this area, although in the UGB, is still the unincorporated area of Williamson County, and that the open space concept should be followed and lots should be 1 to 2 acres closer to Franklin and 5 to 10 acre further away. Those of us who currently reside in this area do so because we enjoy the natural beauty of the open landscape without a sea of rooftops. We don't need or want any commercial business in a residential area. Commercial business has its place, such as in a development like McCaysville that has shop, eat, and walk concept near 840 at the Grove, and the new town center area being developed in Triune, which is all within a short distance. This particular area enjoys a park, baseball field, soccer fields, and elementary schools. It's a 2-lane country road that is enjoyed by many bike riders, so an increase in additional traffic would take away the quiet and tranquil atmosphere we now enjoy. I ask that you remember this request as you consider applications for annexation and growth in the UGB. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Wayne? No, Andrew?
Hi, everybody. I'm Andrew L. Keenan. I live on 1539 West Harpeth Road. Wanted to address the growth plan in our area. Our area is kind of a unique area. We're situated right between Franklin and Thompson Station. We're one of the last areas that hasn't really turned into an urban growth zone yet. In doing this and trying to bring us into the city, you're forcing upon the people of the area something they do not want. We enjoy the area. We enjoy the farms. We enjoy the space, the quiet. If you start building lots of houses everywhere, having house cities in our area, we're going to be the same as the rest of the areas around here instead of having our own identity. I know you guys aren't Thompson Station, but the mayor down there says he wants to keep the rural, small town character of his town. Looking around at what they're building recently, and that's on their website if you want to look it up, looking at the recent growth and development down there with very small lots, very high density, and also mixed-use development, that doesn't sound like a very rural, small town character at all to me. The city of Franklin is also growing quickly. We understand that. I understand that you want to incorporate more people, have more tax money coming in. Our area is selected by us that live there. Many people don't leave the area because they've been there for years, decades, or even centuries. People like the area, it's quiet, and don't want this growth coming into it. If we wanted this, you would see more people leaving this area. You would see more turnover in housing, which you don't see in the area. It's very rare that neighbors move out to seek out other areas for this. The other issue you're going to start bringing is by bringing in urban services that the people in the area do not necessarily want. We don't have these services currently. If we were seeking them out, we can always leave and go somewhere that provides these services. We don't want the extra services. We don't want the extra taxes. Sure, there's a lot of talk about adding green space, adding parks, this kind of thing. There also needs to be green area that's your own personal private green area. There's nothing like having your own backyard you can go in, raise a kid in, have a space for them to play. Not all green area needs to be a park that's shared space among everybody. There's a certain peace, quiet, and tranquility you can have at your own area that is not shared with others. Furthermore, the additional traffic caused by this is going to put a burden on a road that is very dangerous with a lot of sharp curves and a lot of blind hills that could be a very big safety issue to the area. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Wayne?
This will be pretty short. I'm not long-winded. I live at 1553 Indian Meadows Drive, and of course, that subdivision's been there for quite some time, along with some of the other subdivisions. One of my concerns, I think, is that it appears from my information I've gotten from the little map where some of the parcels or lots are exempt is in one particular subdivision. And if Thompson Station were to pull everyone in, that particular subdivision would be an island. It would be surrounded totally by Thompson Station. It appears to me that you would either exempt all of the existing subdivisions from this plan or bring all of them into the plan, not pick and choose different subdivisions. That's what I've seen on the maps that I've got. So I don't know if I'm misinformed or not, but that's what I see.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. Dana Frick.
Hi, I'm Dana Frick. I live at 1527 Indian Meadows Drive. Late last year, I started noticing some residential development around me and started educating myself. I was surprised to find out, even though I have a Franklin address, I'm in Thompson Station's urban growth boundary. I also learned that being in an urban growth boundary doesn't mean annexation, doesn't mean increased taxes. I also learned, though, that if you apply for a denial of sewer, that's one step towards getting out of Franklin's urban growth boundary and moving into Thompson Stations. All this is something that I've worked real hard to help other people in my neighborhood understand. But they don't understand because we're not informed. I want to read something from Thompson Station's LDO, not that they follow their LDO, but it's common across a lot of planning departments. Applications for change, either of district boundaries or classification of property shown on the sector map, shall be submitted to the planning department along with fees and whatnot. In addition to the notice and public hearing requirements of state law, any property owner or approved representative requesting an amendment to the zoning map shall be required, upon the filing of their petition, to identify names and mailing addresses, all adjacent property owners, including any properties that are separated by a public right-of-way. That's Indian Meadows. Indian Meadows people, raise your hand. The town shall then send by certified mail notice of the proposed rezoning of the scheduled public hearing and date. Failure to obtain service upon an adjacent property owner may result in the rescheduling of the public hearing and postponement of the vote on the zoning map. I watched the Growth Map Advisory Committee meeting online. Nolensville appeared to be the only municipality that took these steps to notify the residents that their homes, typically their largest financial investment, is going to be impacted by a change in the boundary. My challenge to Franklin and other municipalities is to notify when an urban growth boundary change will occur, to notify those residents in South Point, Keystone, and Indian Meadows that are adjacent to those 7 parcels owned by A1 that this is going to change. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I've got Scott Moore, Andrew Kelly, Ron Lewis, and Lauren Lewis.
Thank you. Good evening. Scott Moore. I live at 1315 Aaron Lane, and I'm basically in that neighborhood that's the first one, Laurel Hill. It's right off of West Harpeth and Columbia Pike. When I look at this map, some of the things that have been brought up that are concerning is just the lack of information and having to seek it. We've been in that house for going on 14 years now, and this isn't our first rodeo with Thompson Station. And the way that they operate, 2 farms was a big deal a few years ago that we had to battle against, and found some of the same problems where lack of transparency, some things were done shadily to make sure that the process could move forward without a whole lot of input from those of us that live there. Understand this is Franklin and a county issue, but when I look at this map, the one thing that I look of is Thompson Station keeps creeping up and up, and their track record has no bearing of them ever keeping the quiet nature of West Harpeth and the thing that drew all of us to it. All the neighborhoods that you see here, South Point right across the road from us, everybody's on like an acre or better. There's only 17 houses in our neighborhood. It's very quiet, it's quaint, it's beautiful, and as one of the other gentlemen said, if we wanted something different, there are a million different places you can go. But what you don't have are areas like this, and we want to keep them that way. So I would implore, if it's going to be based off of Thompson Station, I would love to see Franklin or the county come in, and if you want to absorb into an urban growth boundary and keep the standards that are in that big wedge right there on Goose Creek and Columbia, all that on the right side, it's successfully being sold as large lots that stick with the zoning that's currently there and are more reflective of what we have in South Point and Keystone and Laurel Hill, the neighborhood I'm in. So as this process moves along, I want to see a little bit more rhyme or reason as to the exclusion for South Point being in the county. For those of us in Indian Meadows, Laurel Hill, and some of these more established neighborhoods that have all those draws that brought us there, we want to ensure that we're able to keep that outside of Thompson Station's will. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Andrew Kelly?
Hi, my name is Andrew Kelly at 1305 Aaron Lane, Laurel Hill Development, off of West Harpeth Road as well. And just here to speak about the UGB of Franklin changing it over to Thompson Station. I am not in favor of that happening for our particular area. Again, a couple other people have already mentioned here that there's developments going on down there, and we know it's going to happen. However, currently right now, that area that's going to be developed, there's 9 properties that are to be developed by big developers. 7 of those are one particular company called A1 Builders. And the one particular area on West Harpeth Road is zoned as a MG, I'm trying to find it here again, basically a 1 acre lot. And Thompson Station, if we were to move that area into Thompson Station's UGB, their track record is to change the zoning laws. Some of them have been the toll gate, which used to be in one time a 1 acre lot, but it got transferred over from a 360 acre lot, and they put on 240 homes, so basically they doubled it, they changed it. There's one other lot down the street from us currently right now that is being built, Thomas Downs, which was a T1 lot, and it was 1 acre lot. Thompson Station transferred it over to a T2 lot, so now this, instead of 1 acre homes, there's, which should have been 11 homes, there's 16 being built over at, right down the road as well, 1.5 miles from this West Harpeth area that we're talking about. Station Hill was a 224-acre lot, and it was a T1 lot. Thompson Station immediately transferred it over when the builders came in, transferred it over to a T2, and 412 houses are being built there today. So again, Thompson Station, we know, has a record of transferring their zoning laws immediately to accommodate these builders, to go from 1-acre lots, which is what we have on West Harpeth, to usually T2, well, in their case, D2s or D3s, which allows them to build, 1.5 to 3 to 2 houses or 3 houses per acre. So again, we're not in favor of this happening in the West Harpeth area. It's going to be very bad for the for safety issues. As we mentioned, it's a small road, little local road, and the traffic down there. Just think, if there's already 412 houses going to be built down there in Station Hill.
Okay.
That's 412 cars that are going to come by each day, minimum.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ron Lewis.
Good evening. My name's Ron Lewis. I live at 2204 Gray Cliff Drive in Durham Manor, about 6 minutes away from this project. And I'm here in support of my daughter and her family. We moved here 3 years ago for a reason. I live in Durham Manor on 2 acres. She lives in Keystone on 1 acre, backing up to this project. The current reality out there is high density. I mean, you just have to look at McEwen. There's 8 projects off of McEwen that are all apartments and high density. I mean, we have enough of that. I used to live in Orange County forever, and that's 4,000 people per square mile. My daughter lived near LAX, which is 9,000 people per square mile. We both moved to a zip code that is 275 to 300 people per square mile. Big difference. We greatly increased the quality of our lives. Over the last 2.5 years, 13 of my family of 17 have moved here, and there's a reason for that. Even though we live in the county, we revere the fact that our address is Franklin. People ask us how we like living in Nashville. I correct them, say I live in Franklin for a reason. Thompson Station has a different game plan than Franklin. Our son lives in Canterbury off Kreitz on 1/5 of an acre. My daughter lives in the county with a Franklin address on 1 acre. Keep this land Franklin Wilco and keep it 1 lot per 1 acre. Thank you.
Thank you. Up. Click. Okay. Lauren Lewis.
Yes. Hi, I'm Lauren Lewis, 1745 Masters Drive, and yes, that's my dad. He did convince us all to move here to Franklin, Tennessee. You can see my house on that map. It backs up to the rectangle and the 2 10-acre long skinny parcels. I have watched them build those homes. When I moved here, my husband and I lived in super high density living in Los Angeles. I had 3 children and 1 on the way. I lived in a 1,000 square foot condo on the 4th floor during the pandemic, and I homeschooled. I was determined to move where I was not going to live in high-density living. I wanted rural for the sake of my super high-energetic firstborn, as well as my other children on the way. We moved here, and I looked around and I said, where are the homes with land, but still in a neighborhood? And as soon as we entered Keystone, I went, this is it. It's still a neighborhood, but it still has land. I know my neighbors. My kids can play together with them, but it still gives my son an opportunity to run around our house and not bother the people downstairs. What we've noticed in the last 2.5, 3 years since we've lived here is an increase on traffic on Columbia as we leave in the morning. It can take us sometimes 4 minutes to turn left out of Keystone as cars fly over the hill coming north on Columbia. I can only imagine that that would increase if we added more homes to those parcels. I know homes will be built, but we're talking about if we give the land now the ability to have hundreds of people as opposed to a few families, it makes a huge difference. Our property values are going to be impacted by this because right now we have quiet rural living. We're still in an area where I can get to Target and I can call an ambulance if my daughter falls down the stairs, because yes, she did, and they're there in 3 minutes, but I still have the small town feeling of raising my kids where they can just be kids. There are enough large developments with small lot sizes in Franklin and Thompson Station. Once you give away the land and you build on it, you cannot go back. You can't go back. So I would ask that you preserve the quiet of Franklin and preserve the rural feel for my family and all the other families who have lived in those parcels for a reason. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, I didn't say anything last time, but it's not appropriate to applaud and whistle and cheer and things like that. So thank you very much for your accommodation. I think there's one more speaker that wants to speak to the UGB, Kathy Weber. Kathy? Anyone else want to speak to the UGB, item 11? Okay, come forward, Kathy.
Good evening, I'm Kathy Weber. I live in the county, but Franklin mailing address, and in the UGB of the Mays Creek Basin area. I want to thank you guys because when we were involved with doing the 2040 plan and this item came up, we knew what a big task it was going to be. And Andrew's staff has kept, I know, me informed because I was one participating, and I was getting continual updates on what was going on and where the meetings were, so I really appreciate being included and a part of it. I also want to say that the county went to their 2040 plan with the one home per 5 acres for the purpose of preserving Williamson County's landscape and the rural design of what people do come to live here for, as you heard tonight. All these people are just requesting the same thing. So I'm asking, as a citizen in the county and being a part of this since the 2020 plan, I'd like to find out if you can present to the committee that the UGBs of each municipality be zoned according for transition to butt up against the county. Every seminar, symposium that you've had, any public hearing with citizens' comments, putting them on the boards, everyone says they do not want more density. And the county did it to save money for schools and for the road because they don't have the money either. They don't have the money. We don't have the money. We're all in Williamson County, and we don't have the money. And our debt is going to top within 15 years, 10 years, to be $1 billion for the purpose of mostly school building and infrastructure needs. So we're hurting, and we know that. We know the city has all these homes approved and permitted, but there's no sewer now, and you're frantically trying to get sewer. So let's slow this down, maybe get to the committee and ask them if every municipality can have the same UGB zoning. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I now declare the public hearing closed. Next, there should be a presentation by the applicant for this item.
The city is the applicant.
Okay. So we've done our presentation. Is there a motion for this item?
I move to recommend approval to the board and mayor and officer.
So you have a motion to recommend approval to the BOMA by Commissioner Orr. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
You have a second by Commissioner Harrison. Any discussion?
I have a question.
Sure.
Yeah, looking at that, help me understand why the two parcels that have the hatched in red but are now white underlying, why those are going to the county, but they're going to be surrounded by a UGB of another municipality. I'm struggling with why we would leave those. Why would we create those islands?
Can you hear me, Mr. Chair? Is that better?
Yeah, just
Okay.
get as close as you can.
There's a county subdivision that's remaining in white, and it's built-out county subdivision. And then the two parcels north were not part of the A1 property owner's request to the board for removal from the UGB. Or they were. I think they were, and that it's, the Thompson Station is not proposing to add them.
It's got houses on it, it's already built.
Yeah,
They're two 10-acre tracts
so they would just remain in the county.
and two existing houses.
Got it. Okay.
And so as I understand it, there's no way for Franklin to serve that area, these lots in question with sewer?
On March 28th, the Board of Mayor and Aldermen denied sewer availability for the A1 home builder parcels, which is the large rectangular one, and then the 6 or so parcels that are south of that are hatched. So our Board of Mayor and Aldermen denied sewer to those properties, meaning they're left to, they can develop in the county if they so choose. As part of the UGB update that we're all working on, Thompson Station is, as part of their proposal, recommending to include them. And beyond that, I don't know what all the plans are.
All right.
Part of the rationale.
I'm sorry.
That's me, Mr. Chair.
That's Emily. That's Emily.
Part of the rationale.
You may speak.
Thank you. Part of the rationale in the denial of sewer request was that according to our water department and sewer department, the timeline for providing sewer service to this area of our existing UGB is beyond the 20-year horizon that is established as part of the growth planning legislation by the state. So we really look at a 20-year horizon for the establishment of our growth boundaries and what we can realistically serve or annex in that time frame. And these properties were beyond that time.
Oh, beyond that time, okay.
Is it surrendered to the county if we vote on this? I know it'll go on the mayor and alderman, but can, the applicant and the speakers tonight, can they not take this issue up with the county and determine whether the county will keep it versus Thompson Station?
Yes, so there are public hearings that are being held by every municipality, including Thompson Station and the county. So there will be 2 public hearings for every municipality and the county. And then after those are held, the coordinating committee for the growth plan will convene and hold 2 public hearings as well. But those dates have not been set yet because we're still in the local public hearing phase of the process.
And part of Franklin's heartburn is about the lift stations and the pump stations that would be necessary, lack of gravity flow. And a lot of times that urban growth boundary gets surrendered to either the county or to a neighboring urban growth boundary municipality. So the speakers had a great presentation tonight, and you know we're unable to provide sewer because of those constraints, and that's because of Mays Creek.
So I think,
You can do septic, and you can do it, you can keep it county, so my suggestion would be just to certainly work with the county and Thompson Station and figure out what they're gonna do on their particular zoning and what they are willing to do.
Right.
yeah, oh, were you gonna say something, Marcia? I think from my perspective, if we as a city are not prepared to allow somebody to explore developing the property, I don't think it would be fair to say we still want to hold on to it and not allow you to do something else. At least explore it. You know, I support this. I don't want this to be construed as me saying I support more density development. I just support the idea that somebody can go be allowed to talk to the county or another municipality to get the services that they want for development. And if Thompson Station doesn't want more density, that's their decision. But we can't support it. So I don't think the piece of land should be locked down, so.
I guess I
And
want
that's the only-
understanding, I guess I do want to say, I want understanding to the citizens is that we cannot, like I said, we have a 20 years, it would take us more than 20 years to provide the sanitary sewer to that. We have the letter, the Board of Mayor and Aldermen denied it because it would take more than 20 years to provide sewer there. So therefore, that's why the denial was there. And because of that, like I said, we can't hold this land hostage. And so that's why it has been denied. And so therefore, we have no control over the county or over another municipality. And so we want to be clear about that. And that's why we have to support, that's why we will have to support this. So we want to be clear on that.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Okay, so we have a proper motion, a recommendation of approval to BOMA, made by Commissioner Orr, seconded by Commissioner Harrison. By roll call vote, Commissioner Allen,
Aye.
Commissioner Franks.
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison.
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsey votes aye. Commissioner Mann.
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore.
Aye.
Commissioner Orr.
Aye.
Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
And Commissioner Williamson.
Aye.
That motion passes. Item number 12 is again a public hearing. Consideration of Resolution 2023-010, a resolution to adopt an Envision Franklin Plan Amendment for a parcel located at 4315 South Carruthers Road, known as map 089, parcel 04600, to change the design concepts map from mixed residential to neighborhood commercial and to add a special consideration. Staff presentation.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to first just acknowledge that on some pages it might be designated as 23-10, and it is 23-010. That's just from law. But thank you, Mr. Chairman. This application is to amend the Envision Franklin Design Concepts Map for a 3.96 acre parcel located at 4315 South Carruthers Road. It's currently part of the Lockwood Glen PUD subdivision. This proposal was originally presented at March 23rd FMPC meeting, and then again at the April, June, and today's meeting in July. The property currently has the mixed residential design concept, and the applicant is requesting that the parcel receive the design concept of neighborhood commercial with a special consideration as follows. Given the proximity to the Lockwood Glen neighborhood to the south, the uses at this location should be limited to restaurants without a drive-through, office, retail, and personal services, all which emphasize local small businesses. Furthermore, the only recommended uses of those specified are those that may be accessed safely and effectively from South Carruthers Road. Any connection to South Carruthers Road is contingent on a development plan submittal and traffic impact analysis review. Buildings should be designed to fit the neighborhood scale at a maximum of 2.5 stories with flat or gable roofs. And the planned district is the appropriate zoning district to implement this vision. The parcel sits at the corner of Arterial Street and Collector Road, which is planned to be signalized following the approval of a gas station and other commercial uses on the west side of Carruthers Parkway. A condition of approval for the Lockwood Glen development plan was that access to this property be through Lockwood Glen via McAvoy Drive with the addition of a bridge over the stream, and that no access shall be permitted from either South Carruthers or Carruthers Parkway. This was under the assumption that any development on the parcel would be single-family residences. Vehicular and pedestrian access to the site should be evaluated and determined during the development plan revision when a specific use of specific size has been identified so that the traffic impact can be determined. Staff recommends approval of Resolution 2023-010.
Okay, thank you. This is a public hearing, so we are open for public comment. I've got, I think, 3 cards that relate to this item. Christopher Edwards, Brian McGoughlin, and Scott Johnston. If you'd come forward to the lectern, and again, give us your name and address, and we ask that you hold your comments to 2 minutes.
Sure, thank you. I am Christopher Edwards. I live at 9002 Winlock Lane in the Lockwood Glen subdivision, and I do currently serve as the president of the Lockwood Glen Homeowners Association. The association is approximately 400 homes. We're in a process of building out to over 500. This parcel, while we're not necessarily directly opposed to the neighborhood commercial, we do have significant concerns about the connection into the HOA through McAvoy. And what we are asking is that this particular parcel not move forward until such time as we can work out how this parcel is going to connect into the connector streets. As was stated earlier by some of the residents of our HOA, McAvoy is a straight-through street that runs parallel to Carruthers Parkway. If this connects into South Carruthers, this will be used as a bypass. We are a neighborhood of families with small children who play in the streets. People love our neighborhood, and what we are concerned about is by connecting this potential commercial property into the Lockwood Glen HOA through this McAvoy connector, that it's going to increase the traffic into the HOA and potentially endanger the children of our homeowners association. What we would ask is, let's not put the cart before the horse. Let's not approve the movement of this property and change its zoning until we can figure out how this is going to actually connect. Let's figure that out first, and then let's go back and have the discussion about whether it becomes neighborhood commercial or not. Thank you. I appreciate your time and appreciate your service.
Thank you. Brian McGoughlin?
Chairman, I've already spoken earlier.
Okay. Scott Johnston?
Scott Johnston, 2001 McAvoy Drive. And when we bought our house, the developer told us that that section of the development would be strictly single-family homes built by Crescent. They decided not to build, and now someone wants to change it to commercial. We live very close to that section and do not want the additional traffic and light noise pollution it would bring. The neighbors in that area are very concerned because just across the street from them, kitty corner from this section, will be a gas station that was recently approved, bringing more commercial, more bright lights into that section of the neighborhood. And that, in addition to this new commercial development, would just be a nuisance, a lighting and noise nuisance to that strip of residents that live along Dewar behind this proposed development. And so the residents in that area, my neighbors, we don't want this. We don't want this through traffic through our neighborhood, and we don't want the noise pollution and the light pollution.
Great, thank you. And Jessica Moore?
Hi, I'm Jessica Moore. I'm totally out of my element here, but I live on 392 Dewar Drive, and I back up to this land. I have two small kids, a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, and we play on these streets. We walk on these streets. I will be able to see this development from my window of my master bedroom. My kids will be able to see it from the deck that we play on out back. We bought this land on understanding that there would only be single-family homes back behind us, and now they're talking about putting businesses there. It's very fun to daydream about how it might be an ice cream shop, but in all reality, I think we all know that it probably will not be an ice cream shop that my family and I are gonna walk to. I don't think the developer has our best interest in mind. We're getting a gas station across the street that nobody wants already. So we don't want a road. We don't want the foot traffic while my kids are sleeping at night. And we don't want cars coming through. And that's all. Thanks.
Great, thank you. And by the way, you did very well. Okay, any other comments? I declare the public hearing closed. We have a presentation by the applicant, Mr. Gamble.
Hello, my name is Greg Gamble, and I'm representing the applicant, Crescent Homes. Crescent Homes is a single-family home builder. They're building homes right now in Lockwood Glen. They said, hey, this corner, now that this commercial is going in directly across the street on across Carruthers Parkway, this gives us an opportunity, gives the neighborhood an opportunity to add some commercial amenities that they otherwise don't have. We started with a series of neighborhood meetings engaging Lockwood Glen. In our perspective and our point of view, we thought that overall, they were very positive. There were specific uses that they said, please do not include as a part of this plan. We've listed only the uses that we gathered the majority consensus on. So the restaurants without drive-throughs, the office, these specific uses. There is a development plan currently approved for Lockwood that's still active as far as I know. I don't believe it's expired. It should be an active development plan. In that development plan, there are specific uses that are identified for Lockwood, a specific quantity of homes identified for Lockwood, and conditions of approval. Staff mentioned one of those conditions of approval tonight about McAvoy. It did not include extending all the way to Carruthers Road, specifically because McAvoy is not intended to be a cut-through street all the way to Carruthers Road, but Envision Franklin is not the place to identify or address connectivity. That's in the development plan. With your support tonight of this Envision Franklin plan amendment, it doesn't change the zoning, it doesn't change the entitlement of the property. Crescent Homes could still build single-family homes because that's what's approved in the development plan. They would need to come back to you and back to the board and mayor and alderman with a development plan that identifies the architecture, the uses, the heights, the architectural character and form, and connectivity. Crescent would like to propose a pedestrian connection to McAvoy so that it makes it easier to walk back and forth. The automotive connection or the lack of an automotive connection must come to you in the form of a modification of standards. Staff has been gracious in working with us on crafting the language for the special consideration. This would allow for a driveway for for neighborhood commercial uses to have a driveway that connects to Carruthers Road, but conditions that on a traffic study, on really what I would almost say is lower intensity uses that do not create a problem on Carruthers Road. And that's very specific language that I think that they were very thoughtful about writing in that special consideration. So happy to answer any questions that you may have, but I believe that the Planning Commission and the board, mayor, and alderman do have control over how this is developed and designed. Thank you.
Greg? Assuming that the modification to Envision Franklin, McAvoy is the north-south?
It is the north-south road that stubs right to the south of the Blue Line stream. There's a stream and a buffer that runs along the southern boundary that's about 120 feet wide. Those are all existing trees that'll save. We're required to protect it. It's a protected zone. And McAvoy stops just on the south side of that stream buffer today.
Okay, so, and you just mentioned a pedestrian linkage?
We would love to propose a pedestrian sidewalk or, pedestrian bridge over that little creek right there from McAvoy so that if somebody wanted to walk over, they could. Now, all of this comes in a development plan. We have to have more neighborhood meetings. We have to have more conversations with neighbors.
Yeah.
If the neighbors on McAvoy say, we don't want a pedestrian connection, we'll probably just leave the pedestrian connectivity out on Carruthers Parkway where we know we've got a greenway trail and sidewalks.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Could I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
I wish, could we have show up there, page 8 out of 10 of the,
Submittal,
yeah.
I think it's the submittal package.
Resubmittal.
Yeah, the resubmittal package.
Conceptual plan.
What you're referring to is the concept plan,
Okay.
which is required for an Envision
No,
Franklin
no,
plan
but
amendment.
I just wanted to look to see what that looks like.
Sure.
And it, did it come?
We submitted that concept plan prior to a lot of our neighborhood meetings.
Oh, yeah, it's, yeah, was that maybe on the resubmittal package or?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
It was with the
resubmittal
initial.
pack- Yes, yes.
Mhm.
Let's look at that.
And so that's what's required by zoning code, and that's why we would have to ask for a modification of standards. And in a development plan, you're allowed to ask for modification of standards regarding connectivity, and we would want to bring that forward.
So that's showing the trees that you say will have to stay there and the little
Yes, ma'am.
stream would have to be there?
The break in the trees is where the quote-unquote bridge connection would go.
But,
But yes, that's existing tree lines and a protected stream.
So what would happen then? How would one get in and out of this particular?
It would just be a commercial driveway just for the neighborhood commercial uses.
Off
All
of
other-
South Carruthers.
All off of Carruthers
To South-
Road with
to
no
South
connection.
Carruthers or Carruthers?
To Carruthers Road.
Carruthers Road?
No connections on the Carruthers
Oh,
Parkway
South-
would be permitted.
South Carruthers Road, though.
Carruthers Road, yes.
Okay, okay. So that could be really,
But we have to show in a traffic report that we're not creating stacking, the use demand, right? The intensity of the use is not creating inappropriate stacking on South Carruthers Road. And worked with engineering and planning specifically, and this is special consideration to make sure we have the language in there that anyone in the future is going to know what that expectation is for the use on that property.
I guess I'm thinking no traffic connection to McAvoy.
What, could you speak up, Ann, because I can't.
I said, so what I'm thinking is no traffic connection to McAvoy. The street that, you know, is already there.
It was my understanding that only BOMA could make that determination through a modification of standards because of our zoning ordinance, but I don't want to put words in planning staff's mouth that may.
Yeah, since there's an existing approved development plan, that really needs to go through the process.
That's what I'm saying, we're not,
with the
we're not at that point in the.
I know, but
we're
that's
not
what
at
I'm
that point in
saying
the plan
is,
right now, at
the
process.
difficulty is that, as it's shown here, you know, it could connect to McAvoy.
But what I'm saying is, we're not at that point in the process right now, right?
Well, then, you know, what we're looking at is just an amendment to Envision Franklin. Is there some way that we could add that
We're
in?
not, but.
You could add it in, but it still requires a modification of standards. It wouldn't be able to be enforced unless the board took further action
Right,
on
and
it.
we're not,
Okay.
that's not what's before us right now, is what I'm saying.
Well,
I will say on
it is the
record that-
difficulty, though. I think people in the area might be somewhat concerned about this, but not so much unless it connects into, traffic connects into McAvoy.
Well,
I
and
just-
since there's an existing development plan, no changes could be made from the single family that's approved there today without coming forward with a new development plan. So it would be before you if there were any change to the approved plan today.
Right,
Including the
And at that
Including
point, you would
connectivity.
review the connectivity.
Okay.
right.
Let's move that along then.
I'll make a motion. I don't think nobody's made a motion,
Okay.
Yeah,
right?
motion's been made, has it been made second?
No, we don't have,
I'll make a move, I'll move to recommend approval, to the Board of Mayor and Alderman.
I'll second.
And the reason, I always said on,
not to the board, Mayor, no, just approval.
just approval, I'm
This
sorry, we
is
own
approval. We're
Franklin
just-
Vision
this is
Franklin, that's
ours.
right, I'm sorry.
This
Yes,
is
so
ours.
then I will
Your
make.
motion would be
move to-
for approval.
For approval.
For approval.
And I am very interested in the development plan as with the neighbors. I think, I just, we're going to consider that and see if we can make this a smart development. But I think, what I'm saying here is that I'm open to exploring it.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Has it been seconded?
So we have
Was
a
the
proper
seconded?
motion.
Second.
And second.
And we have a motion, we have a second by Commissioner Franks.
But I'd also like to say,
Yeah.
something I think we need to be much better at. I think at the very beginning of any development, and developers need to be better in talking to when they're selling homes and when developments need to be made. They need to be very clear. We need to be very clear when people are buying about connectivity. That people need to know that eventually, streets may be coming through their neighborhoods, that we're not at islands, we're not building islands. And we just had a room full of people who were complaining about Thompson Station. And Thompson Station, the problem is just not density there. And I'll say it, yes, Marcia Denise Allen, it's not just density, it's also the one-way ins and the one-way outs. Connectivity also makes for dispersing traffic. It makes for not having, where there's just so much. Connectivity is good, so we need to be clear about, developers need to be clear, we need to be clear as a board, that connectivity is good, and you may be living in a neighborhood that may have a street that's extended in it in the future. And I'm gonna hush, but yes, connectivity is good, and it's coming to a neighborhood near you. Okay.
All right, other comments or questions by the board? Seeing none, we have a proper motion for approval of Resolution 2023-010. In a second, by roll call vote, Commissioner Allen,
Aye.
Commissioner Franks, Commissioner Harrison,
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsey votes aye, Commissioner Mann,
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore,
Aye.
Commissioner Orr,
Aye.
Alderman Peterson,
No.
and Commissioner Williamson.
Aye.
That motion passes. Item number 13, consideration of Resolution 2023-51, a resolution approving a revised development plan for West Haven PUD subdivision for the property located south of Highway 96 West and west of Boyd Mill Pike. Staff presentation?
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of the proposed revision to West Haven PUD subdivision development plan is to increase the height allowance to 5 stories for the proposed independent living facility located in the Jewel property area and remove the road connection from the Jewel property area to new Highway 96 West. The request to allow for 5 stories would better align with what is allowed within the West Haven pattern book. And the request to remove the road connection to Highway 96 West is to accommodate a stream and a wetland on the north side of the property. The city would not support roadway construction impacts to these features, and the traffic impact analysis has very minimal trips projected at this connection. The developer has provided a memo update to the TIA, and there were no significant impacts to the original recommendations. There are no proposed changes to the total number of dwelling units or to the commercial square footage. The development plan revision is consistent with Envision Franklin and maintains the vision of the original concept for West Haven development. West Haven PUD subdivision development plan revision 5 was approved by BOMA in October of 2020, and staff recommends that the Planning Commission recommend to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen to approve this resolution 2023-51. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone from the public wish to speak to this item? Seeing none, is there someone here representing the applicant?
Mr. Chairman, Ben Crenshaw with Southern Lane Company. Chelsea's report was complete and accurate, and I'm here to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay, is there a motion on this item?
Move for approval.
We have a motion for approval or recommend approval to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. Is that your motion?
Yes.
By Commissioner Harrison. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner McLemore. Okay, any discussion?
Yes. So
Yes.
5 stories kind of took me aback when I saw it, when I looked at this. Seems rather high. And staff, somebody needs to help me out here. Okay. 5 stories, okay, we're talking West Haven, right? My side of town. And as we drive down 96, because that's where West Haven is at, somebody help me out with this now. I'm countryside, West Haven, 5 stories. Somebody help me here.
The development plan was originally approved back in
2003.
Thank you, Ben. It was divided into transects. Transect 5, which is very urban and dense, all the way down to Transect 1, which is very rural. Since the original approval of that, Transect 5 has always listed heights as potential of 5 stories for certain building types. So what West Haven is doing is just utilizing the pattern book and the tools that they have. The development plan in 2020 had the buildings at 4 stories. So that's why this is moving through the process, along with the removal of the external access. So, does that help?
The external access was directly to New 96 West.
Correct.
And now we're talking about access off of Boyd Mill?
We always had the access off of Boyd Mill.
Okay.
We had 3 access points into this property. One was from Mac Hatcher, one was from Boyd Mill, and one was from Highway 96 West. What we're asking for is the removal of that connection. I know you're talking about connectivity, but removal of a road. Right,
I wasn't
right.
even gonna say that because I just preached on that, but anyway.
But however, we knew there were some aquatic resources in that buffer zone between 96 West and our property, and it just doesn't make sense to try to push a road through there. It will impact wetlands, Blue Line Stream, and the connection to 96 is really, as staff said, from a traffic impact standpoint, is really not a valuable connection anyway.
Okay, and just to follow up on that, West Haven and Southern Land understands that we don't mow down to the water line anymore like we did when we originally built West Haven.
Yes, sir.
We protect those buffers and
Yes, sir.
in a very appropriate way. There are a lot of
Yes,
ways to
sir.
do that, so.
Your staff and we have gotten to know each other very well.
I appreciate that.
What's the, from 4 to 5, I'm guessing you're adding units, or what's the per
So,
driving?
there's a sheet in your package.
And I guess I will say, I couldn't get any,
It's
couldn't
not
get this one to
loading.
load.
We can't
So I
quite
haven't,
look at it.
I wasn't able to, so if you wouldn't mind maybe walking through some of those pages if you have them up.
No,
'Cause I-
absolutely. If,
CP9.
okay. So to clarify, we're asking for the change of 2 5-stories for just one of the buildings. We have 3 buildings, and in the original plan, just if you'll allow me, a little history of why we were making this change is when we were going through the change in 2020, we wanted it to be an independent living facility. And we put a placeholder building in the plan just because we didn't know, Southern Land Company didn't know much about the business of age-restricted living. Since then, we've gone through a significant education process, brought on a lot of consultants, and we're really not happy with the original layout of the plan because it just wasn't good planning. We had it as a placeholder, and we really wanted to relook at how that worked. So we had, in the previous plan, we had believe we listed 135 to 150 units within the structured area, meaning the multi-story structured area of this, of the Jewel property. Since then, we have increased it. We're going to ask for right at 208. Instead of 150, it's 208 now. And instead of one building, we broke it up into 3 buildings because it fits with the character of the rest of the neighborhood. We had it listed as 4 stories. One of those buildings wants to be 5 stories because it's at the terminus of the main entry off of Boyd Mill, creating a much better scale and a much better project, just from a planning standpoint. It's much more of a welcoming kind of project, in line with the rest of West Haven. What you don't see in the plans that we have now, and you will be seeing the development or the site plan submittal. It'll probably be September or October when we submit it, and with much more detail. But we are putting a majority of the parking underneath this taller building, and so we're trying to eliminate, I believe it's a little over 100 parking spaces that will be in the basement of that building. And so we're working with staff. It actually steps down as the grade wraps around the building to kind of give it a better, more appropriate scale. So yes is the short answer to your question of, are there more units within that building? Yes, there are, going from 150 to 208. But we're not asking for more entitlements because we had entitled in 2020 416 total units within the Jewel area. We'll probably be at 414. So we're not going to ask for any more residential entitlements for this side of the property.
So it sounds like there would be negligible traffic impact. I mean, it's senior living, it sounds like, so maybe that's.
Wait, don't forget, this is in between that little Mac Hatcher part that goes down into there and Boyd Mill. See, so really, the 5 stories really kind of backing up to Mac Hatcher, but pretty far away from it.
It's at the corner, yes. It's over
That-
300 feet because of the buffer off of the development buffer off of the south side of Highway 96. And it's more than 150 feet away. Well, it's right at 150 feet away from Mac Hatcher because of the TVA lines. And so
Yeah.
it's set back pretty far. But no, there will not be a significant change in the traffic impact. We had our study done that because of the total entitlements will still be right at 414. There's no real change to the traffic.
Okay, and that was what I was more focused on, because I think last month we had a pretty robust discussion about the apartment proposal, about the impact, and I think you made a great comment that we rubber stamp changes to development plans in West Haven or areas, the side of town, and without thinking of the traffic impact it has downstream. So I just want to be conscious of that, and I think maybe apply a little bit of a harder microscope to some of these changes for that purpose, because the times have changed. So that's why I was asking those questions. That's helpful. Thank you.
And then relative to that location, to the water resource, how, are you impacted at all by any floodplain on this side?
We're not.
Okay. Because FEMA gets into some pretty rigorous requirements relative to subgrade parking under
It does.
residential structures.
We've
They
got
they just don't
experience.
allow it.
Yes,
so.
that's correct. And for residential.
Right, for residential.
Correct.
If it
And
was
so,
a
no,
mixed
we're-
use, then-
We're far above
Yeah,
floodplain
okay.
here.
And which of the buildings is 5-story?
So if you follow so the old plan is on the left, this is a comparison, the old plan is on the left, the new plan is on the right. The 5-story building is the one that's the closest to Mac Hatcher, the one where the arrow was. And I've got a pointer too. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So
That one.
the other two are, I'll let her point because you guys can't see this one, but the other two flanking it are gonna be 4 stories, and then so that building at the end is 5
Yeah,
stories.
you can see it there. Thank you.
So the 5-story is the one in the middle and northernmost in that?
That is correct.
in that drawing, yeah.
Sort of an H-shaped building.
Yeah,
The other
okay.
two, the U-shaped building and the straight bar are both 5-story, or 3-story. 4 stories. Sorry,
Four stories.
sorry for
And then
confusion.
it goes down to the 3-story townhomes and
So
then 2-story townhomes.
That's
right?
correct. We have condominiums, as you move east towards Boyd Mill, 3-story condos on the south side, 3-story townhomes on the north side, and then 2-story townhomes as you keep moving. We've paid a lot of attention to the transitions. As you go out to West Haven and you drive on Front Street, you go fire hall, commercial building, steps up to 2 stories, steps up to 3 stories, steps up to 4 stories. That's the same logic that we've applied here, is that there's no real abrupt change from a scale perspective, is that as you move closer to that center green, that's where the scale really ramps up. And then it ramps down to both the condominiums, the townhomes, and the single family just outside of that.
Okay. Other comments, questions? Okay, so we've got a proper motion for recommendation of approval to BOMA. By roll call vote, Commissioner Allen,
No.
Commissioner Franks,
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison,
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsey votes aye, Commissioner Mann,
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore,
Aye.
Commissioner Orr,
Aye.
Alderman Peterson,
Yes.
and Commissioner Williamson.
Aye.
That motion passes.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Ben. Item number 14 is consideration of ordinance 2023-29, an ordinance to rezone .1 acres from residential 6, R6 district, to planned PD 20 district for the property located south of Mount Hope Street and west of 9th Avenue North at 611 Mount Hope Street, referred to as the 611 Mount Hope PUD subdivision. Staff presentation.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, this rezoning request is to accommodate the 611 Mount Hope PUD subdivision. The property is currently zoned residential 6, R6, and is .10 acres. The PUD proposes 1 duplex building for a total of 2 residential units. Envision Franklin places this parcel in the compact residential design concept, which is specific to the Natchez and Hard Bargain historic neighborhoods. For compact residential, Envision Franklin states, infill and redevelopment should be contextually compatible and composed primarily single-family cottages with limited new duplexes, live-work units, and accessory dwellings. The infill development and limited amount of new units is in accordance with the recommendations of Envision Franklin. Therefore, staff recommends that the Planning Commission recommend to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen to approve ordinance 2023-29.
Thank you. Anyone from the public wish to speak to this item? Seeing none, is there someone here representing the applicant?
Hello, my name is Matthew Pfeiffer with CEC, and I'm here with Derek Solomon of Hart Bargain, and we're here to answer any questions that anyone has.
Great, thank you. Is there a motion on this item?
Move for approval to the board.
Second.
We have a motion for approval, recommendation of approval to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen by Commissioner Harrison. And I caught Commissioner Orr as the first second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, by roll call vote, Commissioner Allen,
Aye.
Commissioner Franks.
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison.
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsey votes aye. Commissioner Mann.
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore.
Aye.
Commissioner Orr.
Aye.
Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
And Commissioner Williamson.
Aye.
That motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Item number 15, consideration of Resolution 2023-50, a resolution approving a development plan for 611 Mount Hope PUD subdivision with one modification of development standards for parking for the property located south of Mount Hope Street and west of 9th Avenue North, located at 611 Mount Hope Street. Staff presentation.
Yes, thank you. As previously described, the PUD proposes one duplex building for a total of 2 residential units, and Envision Franklin places this parcel in the compact residential design concept, which is specific to the Natchez and Hard Bargain historic neighborhoods. For compact residential, Envision Franklin states that these areas typically consist of low-scale cottages, small building footprints, small lots, and shallow setbacks. These established characteristics of the historically significant neighborhoods should be preserved. Infill and redevelopment should be contextually compatible and composed of primarily single-family cottages with limited new duplexes, live-work units, and accessory dwellings. The development plan as proposed is consistent with the recommendations of Envision Franklin. The applicant has included 2 modification of standards requests. However, after further review, staff has determined that the second MOS request for building height is not necessary, and what is being proposed meets Envision Franklin as well as the zoning ordinance for building height. Considering the modification of standards, the one modification of standards request is for the reduction in required parking for 3-bedroom residential units from 3 parking spaces to 2.5 parking spaces per unit. Due to the limited space of the property, the availability of on-street parking nearby, the request can be supported. Therefore, staff recommends approval of the MOS, and staff recommends that the Planning Commission recommend to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen to approve Resolution 2023-50 with conditions.
Great, thank you. Anyone from the public wish to speak to this item? Again, seeing none. The applicant, do you have anything further to add on this? Okay.
We support city staff's work, and we appreciate the work that they've done.
Okay, thank you. So what we will do in our usual procedure when we have a modification of standard is we'll entertain a main motion, which will not be voted on until we address the modification of standard, when we'll have another motion, and then we'll go back to the main motion. So with that, is there a motion for, a main motion for this item?
Move for approval.
And we're looking for
Does it need to go to board?
recommendation of approval to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. Is that where you are, Jimmy?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Franks?
Yes, sir.
Recommend approval.
Recommend.
Commissioner Franks. And the second was Commissioner Harrison. Okay, so we'll move to the modification of standards. The applicant has submitted a modification of standards request for a reduction in required parking for 3-bedroom residential units from 3 parking spaces to 2.5 parking spaces due to the limited space on the property and the availability of on-street parking nearby. The request can be supported. So is there a motion on modification of standards number 1?
So moved.
Have a motion by Commissioner Allen and a second by Commissioner McLemore. Any further discussion on the modification of standards?
I'm just really proud of staff. Thank you.
My only question is whether you're going to split this half space lengthwise or
Motorcycle.
All we need is a couple of y'all.
Widthwise.
Okay, by roll call vote, Commissioner Allen,
Aye.
Commissioner Franks,
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison,
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsey votes aye, Commissioner Mann,
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore,
Aye.
Commissioner Orr,
Aye.
Alderman Peterson,
Yes.
and Commissioner Williamson.
Aye.
So the request for modification of standards is approved. With that, we go back to our main motion. Any further discussion on the main motion? That's a motion recommending approval to BOMA. By roll call vote, Commissioner Allen?
Aye.
Commissioner Franks?
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison? Commissioner Lindsey votes aye. Commissioner Mann?
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore?
Aye.
Commissioner Orr?
Aye.
Alderman Peterson?
Yes.
And Commissioner Williamson?
Aye.
That motion passes unanimously. Okay, now, thank you very much. Any other non-agenda items? I think we have completed our task for the night. Is there a motion for approval, for adjournment?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Harrison and a second by Commissioner Orr. The motion is not debatable. By roll call, Commissioner Allen?
Aye.
Commissioner Franks?
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison?
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsey votes aye. Commissioner Mann?
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore?
Aye.
Commissioner Orr?
Aye.
Alderman Peterson?
Yes.
And Commissioner Williamson?
Aye.
We are adjourned.